A feminist and champion of human rights and gender equity, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, is a New York Times best-selling author and co-founder of the Archwell Foundation and Archwell Productions. Her influence extends across various sectors from entertainment to philanthropy, making her a driving force for positive change.
This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. It's International Women's Day, and our Duchess, the one who wants to be ranked above everyone else, has spoken. Now, folks, I know so many of you are sick to death of hearing what this woman has to say or what she has been putting out, but I think it's so important that we talk about it and care about it. And the reason why I say that is because she is invading the public space with herself, and we should not back down in voicing our opinions because we do have voices to call out not only the hypocrisy, but the lies. Now, before I get started, I just want to warn everybody that you will be hearing Meghan's voice in some of the clips that I will be using to critique and break down the deception and manipulation. If you can't handle it, then I suggest please skip this video and join me on the next. Okay? All right.
I'm Shauna Knepp. I'm co-executive director of the Archwell Foundation. On behalf of the Archwell Foundation and the 19th, it's truly an honor to be here with all of you, especially on International Women's Day. Woo! A day that holds profound significance as we celebrate the progress we've made while acknowledging the opportunities that lie ahead. At the Archwell Foundation, we believe in the power of community as a transformative solution for our collective well-being. This is especially true for women and for mothers. Creating more equitable and accessible communities amongst us is the bedrock for the more inclusive and compassionate society that we all wish to see.
Right off the bat, folks, not only am I irritated, but I'm slightly embarrassed for Shauna Knepp, considering she is a co-executive director along with James Holt, who is sharing this position with her, and he makes double than what she's making. And here she is saying, oh, Archwell fosters equity and inclusivity, when none of that is true. I mean, it's almost quite embarrassing for Shauna Knepp to be saying this about Archwell when she herself, as a woman, is getting paid far less than what her male counterpart is getting paid. And to me, I find it sad that she's going along with this facade. It's not very uplifting or empowering for women.
Good. I want to start with you, Meghan. Yesterday, the Gina Davis Institute and the advocacy organization Moms First released a report that your foundation, Archwell, supported, examining the cultural portrayals of motherhood in television. Can you tell us about why this project interested you and what the study found?
Now, throughout all of Meghan's word salad, in the end, I don't think she really answered the question, nor do I get the feeling that she actually read through the report.
Yes, as you were saying, the Gina Davis Institute and Moms First released this report, and my husband and I, our foundation, the Archwell Foundation, helped to fund it.
Now, while Meghan wants you to think that she has a private foundation, Archwell is a public charity.
Because I think from our standpoint, and certainly from mine, there are three key reasons why it felt vital to see the information they were going to be pulling through this report. So on a personal level, I've just always loved understanding women and our stories and our lived experiences and our shared experiences. So I was really curious to see what the report was going to uncover in terms of, oftentimes as women, you may agree with this.
In case you forgot, because so far Meghan has said a whole lot of nothing, the question was, can you tell us about why this project interests you and what the study found?
The way that we see ourselves is reflected back to us.
Now watch Meghan's mask slip after she was interrupted slightly to help her get back on track to answering the question.
Sometimes accurately and sometimes, much to our disservice, inaccurately in what we see in media. Inaccurately.
In what we see in media.
And so to be able to have the findings to uncover what we can do to propel that, to make sure women are really feeling seen in a way that is reflective of who and how we are and how we move through the world, felt important.
Now, so far with this long-winded answer, do you know what this finding or report was about? Obviously, she's talking about women, but the report is specifically about mothers on TV. Just so you understand the flavor of what this report is all about, it says here in the executive summary that the analysis of scripted television programs from 2022 that feature mothers in the title cast finds authentic portrayals of motherhood intermingle with portrayals that reproduce unrealistic expectations for moms, likely contributing to the guilt and shame they experience, while setting fathers up for failure too. The following key findings represent opportunities for more realistic portrayals of mothers on television. This is what the whole report was about. And being that Megan is a so-called mom and was in entertainment, you would think that she would talk about that. Megan 1000% missed the mark on this one, but through her word salad and the way that she speaks, it sounds convincing. It sounds like she is answering the question, but she really is not. She truly has a gift for the art of bullshit.
From a philanthropic standpoint with our foundation, there's obviously a lot of work to be done in terms of supporting women and moms. You can begin with paid leave and, and just really looking at, one of the findings actually said that,
yeah, let's talk about this half-ass trying to deflect away from answering the question properly about what this public charity is doing. And I would like to shed some light based off of research that I've been doing on how they are making money. Let's start with this recent report that Archwell had funded for the Gina Davis Institute on Gender and Media, established under the Biden administration in 2021, in which it received its charity status. This is the same Gina Davis who was a part of the Time's Up movement in 2018 when that was a fad. Remember, Megan was all about the Me Too, Time's Up, Black Lives Matter bandwagon? You know how so many of them have gone silent about these organizations since they've been outed for fraud. Well, I'm here to tell you that the grift is still very much alive, and for those that think Harry and Meghan are facing financial trouble, think again, folks. They're not just throwing money to these causes because they're being kind. Please, we know that Meghan and Harry don't do anything unless there's something in it for them. If you haven't noticed, Archwell Public Charity's latest grift is funding these research reports. And you might say to yourself, well, what's in it for Archwell for doing this? Well, let me tell you, a lot. As I suspected that this is what was happening, it all clicked for me in yesterday's State of the Union address, in which President Biden had said something to which my ears perked up to say, that's where the money is coming from. You guessed it, the American taxpayer.
To state the obvious, women are more than half our population, but research on women's health has always been underfunded. That's why we're launching the first ever White House initiative on women's health research, led by Jill, doing an incredible job as First Lady. We'll pass my plan for $12 billion to transfer women's health research and benefit millions of lives all across America.
12 billion taxpayer dollars that has been allocated to quote unquote women's research that is up for grabs now. Now, as I have been following Archwell from day one and calling out this public charity for misappropriating funds in which the IRS should be doing an audit on them, I am going to tell you that all the choices that they have made with the organizations that they have given grants to, make no mistake, Meghan and Harry have received government funds to do this. And I'm going to show you how they have pulled money from our government and who they use to help them write these grants. Now, I want people to really understand this point, that Archwell is not a private foundation. It is a public charity in which, as you can see on the Archwell 2022 tax form, they have checked the box off saying that they are an organization that normally receives a substantial part of its support from a governmental unit or from the general public described in the classification listed here. Folks, we have seen that on the Archwell website, there's no way that the public can donate money, as well as there have been no fundraisers in 2022 and 2021. So what else is left for them? Private donors? Perhaps, but more likely it's from the government. And that's because of the choices that they made in the specific organizations that they gave grants to. Now, if we were to take a look at where the Biden administration had been focused on wasting taxpayer dollars, we'd have to begin in 2021 with this DEI bullshit and the national strategy on gender equity and equality. Billions of dollars have been invested into various government departments to focus on crap like what Meghan Markle has been producing. Now, I agree with you. Meghan's not that smart in order to think about how to get this government money. So what did she do? She hired people to help her. In 2021 and 2022, Meghan and Harry paid Invisible Hands a considerable amount of money to help them with their program for Archwell. So what does that entail? What does Invisible Hands do? Well, according to the website, Invisible Hands core strategic services are research, social impact analysis, road mapping, coalition building, thought leadership, and program design. Creative services include content strategy, copywriting. I'm sure there's some grant writing involved in there because this is focused on organizations that are focused in making social justice impact, aka grifting off the government. I mean, would anybody be surprised that the Obama Foundation is a strategic select partner of theirs? Which makes total sense because Genevieve Roth, who's the CEO of Invisible Hands, had been a part of the Hillary Clinton presidential campaign in 2016 and also was a part working with the White House and Let Girls Learn, which was a government initiative that was launched by President Obama. So obviously she was engaged with our former president and had developed these relationships. So when we look at where money is coming from and the people that Genevieve Roth knows, you start to understand how Meghan became aligned with some of these organizations that she chose. So the Paid Leave for All program that she was running back in 2021 was Genevieve Roth who was behind the scenes trying to make these connections for her and was lobbying towards the right people. No doubt that she was speaking to people within divisions of where she knows she could have pulled funding from, which I bring up now this division. The Gender Policy Council, or GPC, which was set up by President Biden to advance gender equity and equality in both domestic and foreign policy development and implementation. The major focus of this council is paying attention to the barriers faced by women and girls. The person who is leading the GPC is a woman by the name of Jennifer Klein, who serves as an assistant to the president and the director of the GPC Council. Just a little bit about Jennifer that I think is important to know is that she has worked on domestic and global gender policy throughout her career and has advised the president on issues including reproductive rights, gender-based violence, and women's economic security. During the Obama-Biden administration, Klein served as a deputy and senior advisor in the Secretary's Office of Global Women's Issues at the Department of State. During the Clinton-Gore administration, she worked at the White House in a dual appointment as First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton's senior domestic policy advisor and a special assistant to the president on the Domestic Policy Council. Now, who do you think had a good relationship with Jennifer Klein? If you guessed Genevieve Roth, you would be correct. And why does it matter? Well, it could possibly explain how Meghan and Harry could get their hands on taxpayer money. You see, there is a fund called Gender Equity and Equality Action Fund, in which it's housed in the U.S. Aid Department, the department that Jennifer Klein is a part of. As you can see here, this fund advances economic security for women and girls by increasing their access to resources, services, and leadership opportunities, and by addressing the barriers that limit their ability to participate fully in the economy. So in 2022, Archwell gave $65,000 to an organization called Girls Who Code, Marshall Plans for Moms, in which, you guessed it, folks, this is the $65,000 that went to fund the report that Meghan is now promoting at this moment with Gina Davis. And this is what it says: to underwrite a research program which explores how representation of American motherhood on screen contributes to harmful cultural beliefs about mothers that prevent them from receiving structural support, whatever that may be. But the end result was this report that has come out now, of which Megan absolutely had no direct involvement aside from funding it. And the money that was given most likely came from a grant from the government, in which a portion of it most likely was kept and put in Megan's pocket. And this is what I suspect is going on now. So Megan's thinking, okay, I'm going to fund some of these reports while I write these grants and apply for all this money that the government is throwing away at these various organizations to do these types of research. I mean, and this is what made it click for me, was because last night when the president had said that now $12 billion was going to go into women's research, you could bet Megan is probably online looking for grants to apply for in order to create some more bullshit reports to reap the benefits of taxpayer money. And this is what I find so disgusting about this whole NGO situation, because not only is it happening with gender equity, but it's also happening with this crisis that we have going on with the migrants. Is it a coincidence that Megan is resettling Afghans when the U.S. government has a program for welcoming and resettling Afghans? No. So you clearly see what's going on here. They are looking at what money is being taken from the American taxpayer that they can go after. And right now, when you look at the focus of what the government is spending on, you can see the Archwell initiatives align with a lot of these areas in the division of the Department of State, U.S. aid, that Jennifer Klein is a part of. So when you look at the international digital connectivity and talking about equity for people touching the internet, or advancing gender equity, as you can see, these reports that they have put out align with these initiatives of which taxpayer money is associated with. And you guys wonder about Africa, why all of a sudden last year Megan was so hot on Africa? Well, that's because there's a lot of taxpayer money that's going into developing Africa, particularly where Nigeria is. You know, it's like you can't make this up. And all along, this is what I suspect has been happening. They are writing grants with the help of invisible hands, Genevieve Roth, and communicating with various entities in order to get that funding to Archwell. And now the sad thing about this is that monies have been given out, but there's no proper list of seeing who the government is giving money to. One thing is for certain, we know that they are following the World Economic Forum and UN Agenda 2030, in which, according to Kamala's strategy on gender equity and equality, it says how they're going to execute this is on consultation and engagement. So external partners have been and will continue to be essential to advancing our work to promote gender equity and equality, meaning they're giving money to organizations like Meghan and Harry to go ahead and carry out this strategy. It says to inform implementation of this strategy, the Gender Policy Council will continue, that's the GPC, Jennifer Klein, will continue its engagement with Congress, state, local, tribal, and territorial government officials, a diverse range of nonprofit and community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, labor unions and worker organizations, student and youth, private sector representatives, foreign government officials, and multilateral organizations, among others, as appropriate. Now, we all have seen Meghan and Harry go attack the youth, whether it be at the Marcy Labs. That's another entity that most likely falls in this jurisdiction. We also had the AHA community in Los Angeles, you know, the one with the woman who is a predator. These organizations do count on Archwell because Archwell is now pulling funds, most likely from the U.S. government, and then taking a cut of it and then shelling out the rest to these so-called organizations in the name of charity and promoting themselves as humanitarians. Now, folks, I am just speculating on all of this because I do not have a paper trail of showing the government giving Archwell any kind of money. However, when you put all of these together and you can look at it from a 30,000-foot view, you can ask yourself, well, why else would Meghan and Harry hire someone like a Genevieve Roth and pay her a six-figure salary if there's no ROI coming back to them. And I mean that in a monetary way. And when you look at Genevieve's connections, and the same thing goes for Jory Craig, people that she is associated with and worked with, then you start to say, okay, this is how they get our money. This is how they siphon American taxpayer money without any of us knowing about it. Now, some of you might be asking the question, does this have anything to do with WME and Ari Emanuel as well as the Saudis? Well, as far as I can see, not during the time when all of this was set up in 2021. Remember, Meghan was with Sunshine Sachs. Could it be today there might be alignment? That's a possibility, but I can't really answer that. I can only talk to what I've been tracking from the very beginning with the various individuals that Meghan had been aligned with, such as Sunshine Sachs and the Democratic Party, hence the reason why all these connections have come together. Could it be that now Meghan might be aligning more back into Hollywood? Possibly. And a lot of times these celebrities, they use these foundations and access to network in the industry, which is clearly what we're seeing happen here at this panel thing. There's no doubt that Meghan was running in these circles, but do I think initially this is where it started? No. So now when we go back to this farce of Meghan talking about the philanthropic work that Archwell is doing, notice how light it is and how she quickly shifts to a statistic that was mentioned in this report at the very beginning, showing that she really didn't go through the report or pay any attention to it, and this was just throwing money at something to put her name to it.
From a philanthropic standpoint with our foundation, there's obviously a lot of work to be done in terms of supporting women and moms. You can begin with paid leave and, and just really looking at, one of the findings actually said that working moms are paid 62 cents to the dollar for what working dads are. It's those reasons that, we have a production company, and as we build out our slate and have projects that we're doing, or with podcasting as well, to ensure that we are responsibly filling in the roles of moms and women to be reflected in a way that's accurate. So this report, I think, is really valuable, and just proud we could support it.
And we know that that's a flat out fat lie, because on the Archetypes podcast, the one and only podcast that Meghan did, there was not one minority representing on the executive side in all the producers. I mean, look at the current Archwell staff of the 3 people. You've got 2 white males and 1 white female. There's no diversity or representation. So how can she sit up there and pontificate that Archwell is like the pillar example of equity and inclusiveness?
Proud we could support it.
Now, I don't know if this was intentional, but it was kind of embarrassing for Meghan that the interviewer actually turned over the same question to another person on the panel, asking them what they got out of this report, because clearly Meghan didn't answer it.
Absolutely. Looking forward to learning a lot more about that. Nancy, I want to come down to you, because you know better than anyone the damage that inaccurate portrayals have on society. I'm just wondering what your reaction is to this report.
Yeah, so one of the findings of the Moms Report is that on television, moms are represented as thin, young, white, and not really working outside of the home, which is a patriarchal fantasy, right? This is not our real lives.
I mean, how embarrassing is that? Obviously, Nancy read the report, Meghan. Anyhow, later on, Meghan did get back to her old self, talking about what she knows best, herself.
Meghan, will you tell the story about when you wrote that letter to P&G? Because I don't know if everyone's heard it, but it's such a great story.
Now, I couldn't tell if Katie was prompted to ask this question, but this was such a cringe-worthy moment, because we all know that Meghan lied about this story. So now she's been put on the spot to go ahead and tell this story again.
At a very young age, what you did.
That's so fun. Yeah.
I don't know. Something tells me that that was planned, and she is excited to tell this story all over again.
Jump in here.
I was 11 years old, about 11 years old, and I had seen a commercial on TV for a dishwashing liquid, and the boys in my class at the time said,
This is like hilarious. I mean, Meghan now acting like she has to jog her memory as to how old she was. Like, come on, Meghan, you told this story 1,000 times over. Don't act like you don't know when you were 11 years old. I mean, how many times have we heard this dumb story that turned out to be an absolute lie, and your father called you out on it?
I was 11 years old, about 11 years old, and it said, women all over America are fighting greasy pots and pans. And the boy said, yeah, that's where women belong, in the kitchen. And at 11, I just found that infuriating and wrote lots of letters and put pen to paper, and they ended up changing the commercial to people all over America. And, it's funny to look back at it now, because that was before social media, where you had a reach that was so much greater. It was just an 11-year-old with a pen and paper.
And Megan conveniently leaves out the fact that this was a class assignment. So it wasn't like her brilliant idea on her own to write this letter. This was part of the exercise at school. Come on, Megan, stop fronting. You look like a jackass. You see, what I think now is that Megan has told this lie so many times that she actually now believes that it really did happen this way.
But it just, I guess, goes to show that if you know that there's something wrong and you're using your voice to advocate in the direction of what is right.
You see, Megan can't really have this both ways. And I think to a certain degree, she's told this story so many times that it's just the script that she is speaking off of at this point, because she can't possibly believe that what she is saying, she actually embodies. I mean, let's remember, she is an actress and is detached from anything that she talks about. It's why she's able to be calm and to, converse with people in this manner. This is all part of the act.
That can really land and resonate and make huge change for a lot of people. So your voice is not small. It just needs to be heard.
And this was a pure gaslighting statement, as we know that Megan enjoys suppressing people's voices. She doesn't want to hear what anybody else has to say if it's not in alignment with her lies. Megan is a liar, and she doesn't want to be called out on it. And if she can suppress and silence people from telling the truth, then that's the world that she wants to live in. And it's why her husband and her are on this mission to do that. And I think this is a good place to stop, because in part 2, we're going to address Megan's response when asked this particular question.
Megan, I want to come back to you, because social media has really become the go-to place for girls and women to be scrutinized, objectified, bullied, right? And unfortunately, I know that this is something that you are all too familiar with. So how have you been able to manage the seemingly endless toxicity that comes at you?
Megan's gaslighting response deserves its own video, so stay tuned for part 2. Please don't forget to hit the like button and hit your notification bell on so you will be notified when I drop this video. But on that note, as always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I will talk to you later. Bye.
Such a fraud.